Hey guys, buckle up because today we're talking about the Suicide Squad, not to be confused with Suicide Squad.
That's right. But speaking of which, how does this one stack up to Suicide Squad and even Birds of Prey for that matter? Well, stick around because we're about to find out.
All right, guys, the Suicide Squad. This movie is directed by James Gunn. What do you think of him?
Yeah, man, I like Guardians of the Galaxy. I thought that's been a good couple movies they did there. So, I was expecting this one to be, I was expecting this one to be better than the first Suicide Squad movie.
Yeah, I was glad to hear that he's directing this because I really like the comedy in Guardians of the Galaxy, and I was hoping he would bring that over to this franchise.
Oh, and he definitely did. He carried it over pretty well to this one. There was a lot of good funny stuff in this, and I definitely enjoyed that aspect of it, especially for John Cena, right? I mean, there's a lot of funny stuff going on with his character.
Yeah, and I'm normally not a big John Cena fan from his previous movies.
Yeah.
Like, his acting is pretty rough around the edges. But
yeah, and we talked about that. We talked about that when we reviewed the last Fast and Furious movie, right?
Yeah.
How does, I mean, he's an okay actor, but, he's definitely rough around the edges, like I said.
This is probably the best movie I've seen him in as far as his acting.
Yeah,
and
no, I
stuff
agree,
like
man.
that,
Absolutely. So. Yeah, I think he did really good in this one. I mean, you had that scene, towards the beginning where they're in the, in the room being briefed on what's going on, and she's like, okay, it's Operation Starfish, and he's like, Starfish. She's like, excuse me,
Peacemaker.
Starfish is a slang term for a butthole. Think there's any connection?
That was just, I like even when the shark guy like raises his hand, he's like, hand. But this movie has an outstanding cast.
Oh, yeah.
Who's in this movie?
Dude, so you got, again, we just said John Cena, right? And you got, and Sharkman. And funny thing is, he was probably one of my favorite characters in this, and he was voiced by Sylvester Stallone,
Reminds me a little bit of Groot. Like, he doesn't say much, but it works.
Yeah, it works somehow. A lot. And the stuff he does say is just funny because, they make him kind of just this mindless, dumb shark.
What the heck are you even talking about?
So, I think Sylvester Stallone did an awesome voice acting job for that, right? Because he played it very well. You had, of course, Margot Robbie back as Harley Quinn.
Now, do you like her as Harley? I
do like her as Harley. I do. I think she does a good job as Harley. I think she, I think she's dynamic, and just brings a good flavor to that character. I think.
And she definitely pulls off the look, and I like the way she portrays the character. My only issue with this is her fighting capability seems to be way above what I would expect it, and at least what they've explained to us. Because in the previous movie, she was a psychologist or something like that, and then fell in love with Joker, fell into a vat of acid, and then came out Harley Quinn, and now all of a sudden she has like Batman level fighting skills.
Oh yeah, dude, she's like John Wick in this movie. Yeah, no doubt about it, man. It's crazy.
I like her more as a sidekick to the Joker. I don't really like her as this John Wick Batman-esque fighter. Like she's always been somewhat capable of fighter, but not to this
that
extent.
level. Yeah. Well, what I do like about her is Harley Quinn. They make her fearless, right? Like she just, she rushes into any environment, no matter how many people she's going up against, and she just doesn't care, right? She just rushes in there fearless and somehow always manages to fight her way out of it. But you're right, in this movie especially, man, there's a John Wick scene where she's just freaking blasting through. She's spinning around like, like John Wick, and doing all this crazy crap with guns and everything, and it's not even really aiming. And it's just like, come on, man, we've never seen her getting any kind of training like that,
Without getting into it, but those are the scenes that hold this back for me. Is like the nonsense scenes like that. What is her experience with weapons? What is her experience with fighting? And I get you don't have to dive too deep in that, but it's like you have other characters that do that already in this.
Right, exactly.
You have two other characters that could pull that off. That that she's doing more stuff almost than them.
Yeah, well, you have actually three characters that pull it off, right? Because you got Idris Elba's character, right? And he was this, grew up, evidently he was raised by his dad to kill people. He was raised up as like a sniper, a badass kind of guy, right? And then they tell you that John Cena's character was the same thing, but then you also have Flag. And Flag's still, Flag's in this too, back from the first one. And so you got these three awesome freaking, fighters who really don't.
Operator guys.
They don't, like I said, her scene right there.
Dead shots.
Was, exactly. Yeah. You got, what do they call him? This Bloodsport, is who Idris Elba is. And so you got these three awesome fighter characters, but her fight scene there goes way beyond any of the fight scenes they have in this movie.
Yeah, I think so.
So yeah, definitely. I agree with you, man. And that's kind of, I guess that was kind of a mistake. I mean, I get why they did it for dramatic effect, and it was a cool scene. It was a cool scene. But again, the realistic, the reality of it is, they don't. She's never had that kind of training.
Now they got Pete Davidson in this. And they also have what, Michael Rooker?
Yeah, from
Walking Dead and Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yep, exactly. Yep.
And they show those guys off because this scene's kind of interesting because in the beginning they have this like A team or B team, whatever you want to call them. This one team that goes in to begin with, and it's made up of who's in that group? We got the Weasel.
Yeah, you got the Weasel. You got
TDK.
Yeah, dude, TDK.
TDK.
That character was hilarious. They just what they did with him. Then you got the Weasel, you had TDK, you had
Javelin, Captain Boomerang,
Captain Boomerang, Harley Quinn, and Blackguard.
And we got the
Black Guardian, Savant, and then of course Flag, right? So you had all these guys. Well, and they pulled a catfish on you in the beginning of this movie, which I thought was cool, right? So in the beginning of this movie, they show that team, and them kind of putting that whole team together. And which is funny because it goes against the because in the previews, it showed all the other characters, and like, well, when they're putting this team together, I'm like, where are these other guys at that we show? Where's John Cena and all these other guys we saw? But they kind of catfish in the beginning and start out with this big team right here, and then since Harley Quinn's on it and Boomerang's on it, and
Captain Flag
and Flag's on it, you're like, oh, okay, well,
Margot Robbie's character,
Harley
Quinn, so she's in there.
So you automatically think, okay, this must be the main team, and then they catfish it, and it's like, no, that's not even the main team at all.
Yeah, those guys drop pretty quick.
Yeah,
and that's kind of interesting scene. And I like this scene because it shows kind of like the grittiness and realism of like, hey, these guys aren't invincible.
Oh, yeah.
They can go down pretty easily, as a matter of fact.
Super easy, yeah. I mean, they all
matter of fact, we see most of them go down without even showcasing their abilities. And I wish I would have seen some of their abilities before they got wiped out a little bit. Like, we don't get to see the Savant. No. We don't get to see the Blackguard. Yep. We don't get to see the Javelin guy, what he can do. We do get to see TDK, though.
And it was like, who on earth? When even Flag was like, look, I didn't put this team together. Because like his ability, it's like, if there was some strength to it or something, sure. But it's like,
that was just kind of a weird scene, like seeing his arms like float toward people.
Right, put some samurai swords in him or something, Get this guy something to work with,
Put some guns in him where he can shoot people and going crazy, but he just, as these floating hands are like slapping people. It looks like a Three Stooges comedy skit.
Right. Or then the hilarious part too is whenever these guys catch on, like finally they start shooting the arms, and then TDK's like laying on the ground like just writhing in pain as his arms are getting shot up. I was like, holy cow, man, that was freaking hilarious. And then I was sad to see Boomerang die, because he was in the first one. He's one of the few characters I thought did pretty good in the first one, and I like that actor, Jai Courtney. I think he does good stuff. I mean, everything I've seen him in, I've liked his characters in it. I loved him in Spartacus, man, when he played Spartacus, the best friend in that show, did awesome in that. Most movies I've seen him in and shows, he does a good job. And he's a good actor. So it sucked to see him part of that initial team that got killed off, and I thought I was like, man,
he goes out pretty brutal. Like he didn't survive. No, coming back.
Yeah, they're gonna come back from that. But so man, pretty much the whole initial team that they show us and the catfishes with, it gets wiped out right off the bat, right?
Yeah, so, and Weasel, I mean, they are in like an osprey and they jump into the ocean and then swim their way to the beach where they're compromised. And Weasel can't even swim, so he's like compromised as soon as he jumps into the water.
Did anyone check on whether Weasel could swim?
Of course, everybody's looking around like, oops.
Yeah, and I really like the way they made him look. He looked kind of goofy, but I don't know. I was waiting to see his abilities unleashed, but we didn't really get to see it.
No, I didn't see much of Weasel at all, man, unfortunately.
No, and Blackguard gets shot right in the face.
Oh, dude, his face just explodes, man, right? Yeah. Oh, yeah. But, well, that's because he was a freaking traitor anyway, right?
Yeah, so. And I was kind of surprised by that because, even Pete Davidson's name comes up in the beginning, he's going to be somebody in this movie. Right. He's in it for 2 seconds.
Right, and then he's dead. Yeah, exactly. And then you had, so that's of course team one. Then flashed over to the actual team to the movie follows, right? Then you got, so who do we got? We got Bloodsport, Idris Elba. We got John Cena's character,
Peacemaker. King Shark.
His comments are hilarious. Yeah, you got Sylvester Stallone's King Shark. Of course, you got Margot Robbie, who ends up finally joining that team.
The most important character of all, Polka Dot Man.
Yeah, Polka Dot. Yeah, it's hilarious. Especially when they're pulling him out of the prison, right? And that other inmate's making fun of him, like, oh, you freaking wuss, Polka Dot Man.
I think, who is it? John Cena's character, Peacemaker's like, what do you shoot, polka dots out of your hands or something?
And then, of course, he doesn't say anything. And later on, when you see that's what happened, he's like, that is what he does.
Well, that's pretty cool effect because like those polka dots are like
they're like acid, man. Yeah, they're just eating right through stuff, because you find out it's some kind of virus that he has, right? That his freaking mom. Well, that was funny too. Like, every time he showed how he views everything, because he hates his mom, right? Because she was the one that killed off some of his brothers and sisters and gave them all these powers, but she did it trying to give her kids superpowers, but in the process, some of them died, and like for him, right, if he doesn't puke twice a day to get rid of all this virus inside of him, then he dies, right? So,
and that was funny at the end of the movie. He's like, "That's your mom," you know. Who that is.
So right, so every time he sees somebody he's killing, he pictures his mother. So you get all these scenes of his freaking mom, just coming into the scenery, and he's just seeing like tons of his moms everywhere. So
he was like abused and experimented on by his mom. So he has to like envision her to
kill people.
Doing violence.
He's like, I don't like killing people unless I make them look like my mom.
So that essentially that whole team gets wiped out, and I don't know if they're meant to be a diversion, but that's essentially what they become. And I don't know if they're meant to be a diversion because like Captain Flag's on that team, and so and him and Harley Quinn survive. They're like captured. So, and I'm not surprised like something doesn't happen to Harley Quinn because it seems like DC has like big plans for her.
Oh yeah,
it seems like they love Margot Robbie playing her. So
yeah, absolutely. So then, but and of course, and then you have the on the actual team that we were just talking about, aside from John Cena and Stallone and Idris Elba, you've got that girl who is the Ratcatcher 2. They call her Ratcatcher 2. Her father evidently was Ratcatcher 1. He died, so now she's the Ratcatcher 2, and she has the ability to control rats, right? Which is kind of funny because you find out that Idris Elba has this huge, he's completely scared of rats. Every time she's bringing these rats again around, he freaks out. He said, "Get these rats out of here!" So it was, it's pretty good how they threw it in there. And I liked her character because she was a sweetheart. Her character was a sweetheart, but when it came down to it and they needed her, she was there. I mean, she put the work in, and she was a strong character.
Now we got Bloodsport played by Idris Elba, and he seems kind of similar to Will Smith's Deadshot.
Yeah. Now,
it's almost like they swapped him out because his abilities, although not entirely the same, he's a good shot like Deadshot.
Yeah, exactly.
So
and then of course they brought him in the same way they brought Deadshot in. They threatened to do something to his daughter, right? So like we're gonna bring your daughter to this prison and let her get killed unless you join our team, right? So similar, so they pulled.
So
Will
it's
Smith.
like a copy and paste with that a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. But I will say, I thought Idris Elba did way better, as Bloodsport than Will Smith did as Deadshot. I liked Idris Elba's character a lot better. I thought he was more dynamic, and quite honestly, man, I think what I really liked about this one better than the first one too was just all the characters dynamic, right? There was a lot more emotion in this one. I thought there was definitely a lot more connection amongst the characters. I thought the casting in this was better than the first one as far as just how all the characters reacted to each other and the dynamic they had, and just how they were really a team in this, and out to help each other out, and protect each other, especially later on in the movie. So I enjoyed that much better than I did in the first one. I thought they did a much better job with that in this one.
I thought Will Smith did a good job in the first movie, and I'm not sure which one of these two I like better. I think they both did an excellent job, so I'm not sure. The first movie, it was all right. It had good music. I liked the characters. I didn't like the Joker, and I didn't like the villain. But this movie does seem like it's in the same vein as that, so it definitely doesn't seem like totally fresh or different. Because we got Flags back.
Right.
We got what's her name? The woman in charge of the operation. She's back.
So. Waller. Yep, she's
Waller,
back.
She's back. So it seems familiar.
Yeah. No. Yeah. It's definitely familiar. It's definitely the same feel of the first one.
The comedy is better in this one.
Oh, the comedy's way better in this one.
And the interaction with the characters is probably
and I think the action's probably a little better in this one, too. I mean, you got a lot of gory death scenes in this one, Yeah. And I like that, man. I mean, you got people getting killed every which way in this movie. You got a scene where King Shark just grabs this dude and just rips him in half.
He eats someone, too.
He eats someone. It's like Mortal Kombat, freaking finishing moves in this movie.
I would love to see James Gunn make a Mortal Kombat.
Oh, yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah, that'd be awesome. You definitely got to have Shark Man in that, or King Shark in that one, man, because he was just pulverizing people, man, just brutal. So, I mean, I like that aspect of it. I just thought it was an all-around better movie. I mean, the villain was kind of goofy in this one, but I
think that's where this movie suffers.
Right. But even that was still kind of funny, and the stuff they did with it and everything, I thought. So, it didn't put me off that much. Like the villain in this, as soon as you actually see this thing come on scene, man, immediately I'm waiting for the Ghostbusters to come out and cross the streams and blow this thing up.
It does seem something like for that world.
It's like Stay Puft Marshmallow Man,
Pretty much.
And even the way he's walking around, like stepping on people and stuff, man, it was totally Stay Puft-ish. And I was like, all right, man, where's the Ghostbusters at? They're gonna come out any moment, just cross these streams and explode this thing, But but for what it was though, and the way they ended up taking it down and everything, I thought it was kind of cool. You know how they kind of played that out and stuff. So I didn't let that take away from it too much for me. I still really enjoyed the majority and the dynamic of the movie. So
there's another scene where they're going to rescue Flag from this, and they end up. And it's awesome. A pretty cool scene because it's like essentially Peacemaker and Bloodsport kind of one-upping each other with like taking out these rebels or whatever they're doing, and they're killing them in like all kinds of like cool ways and stuff like that. And then they get to
and that's the first time we see the shark eat somebody too, right? So
so they're just like going through these people, and they get to Captain Flag, and he's like having tea, and they're like,
with the rebel leader,
and they're like, oh, these are like the good guys. They're on our side,
right? They're trying to take down the government here, you know. And then the girl's like, you know, the leader of this whole rebel group is this female, and she was like, wait, how'd you get past my men? And they're like, we didn't see any men. After they just killed her whole little army. You know? So.
Now, what do you think about the violence, the cursing, and there's even 2 nudity scenes in this?
Yeah. So I mean, we talked. I talked about a minute ago. I mean, the violence is. It's violent. I mean, there's some gory.
This is rated R, and
it needs to be. Yeah. I mean, there's some.
This isn't really a kids movie, and I was kind of hoping to show this to my kids, but I don't think so.
Yeah, probably not. I mean, your kids are older teens, possibly.
Yeah. Well, I can deal with the violence, but.
There's a lot of F-bombs and stuff dropped in this movie. A lot of cussing stuff.
They have like a nude scene where they show the guy's junk in it.
Oh,
that didn't need to be in there whatsoever.
Right. Yeah, that's
like,
true.
I don't know why they...
Well,
I would have been okay with the violence, but I'm why did you include that?
Well, especially and especially the way they did it, right? Because the dude... And it was one of the rebels, right? That they're walking around killing... And the dude, he's like standing there with a t-shirt on with his junk, just drinking a cup of coffee.
You see everything. It's nothing. Granted, it's only on the scene for like a second or two, but his junk is out.
Yeah, they leave nothing to imagination, man. His junk's just hanging out, you know, as he gets shot and falls over, right? So that was totally didn't need to be in there, and I get why they did it. They did it for kind of comedic value, I think, you know. But that was definitely unnecessary. But
there's another scene where they show a woman with her shirt off or whatever. So,
yeah.
There are those 2 nudity scenes.
The strip club
there's some
scene,
cursing, and then there's obviously violence throughout as well. So.
Yeah, no, definitely an adult movie. I mean, I think for the most part, I mean, your older high school kids are, I mean, most of that stuff, you know, I mean, they've seen it before anyway. They've seen movies and shows with that, and a lot of them have anyway. Maybe just cover their eyes during.
I wouldn't show this to my kids personally, but
I mean, definitely, you know, I mean, it definitely deserves the R rating that it got, right? It definitely can't make this movie PG-13 movie.
Do you think it's better for that?
Yeah, I think so. You know, because I like to be able to see those gory scenes and stuff, right? I think it's kind of cool, you know, just the different way. Especially, I don't know, because we're both in the military, right? And it's kind of, I've been around death and stuff like that, but but when you see it in a movie, it's different because they just do it in all kinds of crazy, stupid ways, right? You see, just like I said, like Mortal Kombat, you know. So when you see people getting ripped in half and all this crazy stuff, and just different weird ways they're coming up with to kill people, it's kind of cool to see that, I guess, you know. But in a fun way, not a morbid way, right?
I don't mind the violence, but I just don't want to. My daughter doesn't need to be. Especially with me watching it with her, see like a full nude shot of some guy.
Dude's junk just hanging out there.
So, maybe if I was watching with my son, it'd be a little bit different.
Story,
I don't know, but
But yeah, no, I mean, but I enjoyed it, man. I enjoyed that. You know, I enjoyed. No, I didn't enjoy that.
Yeah, I bet you did.
I enjoyed the violence.
You took a screenshot or something?
Yeah, like click. No, dude, I enjoyed the violence. I
think we're gonna have you and him in the thumbnail.
But man, I thought it was a good movie, dude. I definitely thought it was better than the first.
All right, Billy. So what didn't you like about this movie?
So, I mean, I wouldn't say there's too much I actually really didn't like about it. There were definitely some parts that were just kind of weak, I guess. You know, like I said, the main villain was pretty weak, I thought. I mean, it was funny. You know, I mean, I enjoyed a lot of the way they took it down and stuff. I like how the team came together to take it down. There were definitely some holes in there and how that went down, right? The way Margot Robbie, dove in and just.
Yeah, well, that's a weird issue too, right? Because she gets the javelin from boy in the beginning. Yeah. She gets that from him in the beginning, and you're like, this has to pay off at some point.
Right.
This
must
be
some
some
cool
kind
weapon,
of special magical javelin, and it looks like a normal javelin.
Yeah, like she cuts some people up with it, in some of the earlier scenes, and then she uses it to dive into this freaking Starfish's giant eyeball, right?
Yeah, and even that's weird because the rats are making their way and eating their way through it. And even when she gets in the eyeball, she's just kind of floating around there, and the rats are the one that take it down.
Yeah,
so
yeah, exactly.
It didn't even seem like she needed to do that.
Right. So yeah, exactly. No. So that part was kind of weak. Yeah, I mean, I thought it was cool what they did with the rats and how they had the rats take it down.
Unless they're trying to say like the eyeball, because I think they're shooting it and nothing's happening, which doesn't make much sense. So but unless they're trying to say that is made out of some kind of special metal that was able to penetrate, but they don't say that.
Right. Right. Because it does make it look like she kind of slices a little bit, like she's slicing through the lens, but they don't show it enough. Right, it's such a quick scene of her just going in. They don't really show her slicing through this thing's eyeball lens to get into the eyeball. But yet, after
the rats are tearing it apart too. There's nothing to believe me that the rats couldn't make their way to.
Well, and then again, like you said, and if that's the case, then why weren't these bullets penetrating it when they were shooting at it earlier? It
didn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, so that was kind of a weak, hole in the plot there, I guess, as far as taking down the villain. I also thought the name of the group Task Force X. It's like, come on, man, are you trying to copy the X-Men? It's like, Marvel's already got the X-Men. You name this group Task Force X. It's like, come up with something different, right? Give them a different
cover name, man. It's really Suicide Squad.
Right. So. Yeah, we prefer. This is your Suicide Squad. Or we prefer Task Force X. But it was what Flag was saying. But and then of course the scene where like we talked about where Margot Robbie is like John Wick, mowing through freaking guys like it's nothing, and like not even aiming and just shooting dudes left and right and all kinds of crazy stuff going on there.
They had to give Harley Quinn a scene to show off, I guess.
Oh, of course, yeah.
I would rather seen Bloodsport or someone else do that.
Yeah,
and that would make more sense for me.
And especially since those, him and John Cena both are, both their primarily main abilities is, whatever they touch, as far as the projectiles, they can freaking just aim it perfectly, right? So that'd have been. Yeah, it made much more sense.
And John Cena eventually turns on this, and then he has a showdown with Bloodsport. And although it's a cool scene where they're shooting bullets at each other, they had a conversation earlier about like when they're talking about, I will shoot like dead on in this. And he's like, oh yeah, well I will shoot through the hole that your bullet makes. So it kind of happens like that. They both shoot at the same time. Bloodsport has smaller bullets. It actually goes through John Cena's bullet and into him. And I'm like, that's kind of bull crap. Like if two bullets were coming at each other, and I get one is kind of like a hollow point round, some kind of special round, and the other guy's is like a Full Metal Jacket type of thing, and it goes right through. But it would like deflect it or something like it wouldn't go through it cleanly like that and keep going. And he must have been shooting really, really small bullets for it to go through that little hole like a hollow point in another bullet. And I'm like.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if that bullet's that big enough and yours is that small enough. I mean, obviously they show it do it, but
But it made cool. It made for cool. Made for cool.
But that's just a little nitpick. I don't buy that. But whatever.
Right. And it kind of made cool. To show you, okay, because these guys have been trying to one up each other the whole movie, and so finally this final showdown, you see who the best really is, right?
Yeah, and it's like a quick draw thing. It's not like a huge fighting scene.
It's like it's high noon and they're freaking drawing on each other.
And we get a little bit more of that with Flag and Peacemaker. So
yeah. Well, then of course one thing I love too. I mean, we talked about this before. John Cena's character is Peacemaker, and they're like, Peacemaker, he's like, yeah, I love peace, and I don't care how many men, women, and children I have to kill to make it happen.
That's a funny line.
Right.
They call you Peacemaker.
I cherish peace with all my heart. I don't care how many men, women, and children I need to kill to get it.
That's right.
I love the comedy, man. I thought that was awesome. And especially coming from John Cena, right? His timing was good. His comedy was good. His timing was good in it. So I thought they did a great job with that. And then, and even some of the other characters like Stallone's, Shark, King Shark, he was pretty funny.
Yeah.
So that was good, man. There's a lot of good comedy.
He's like way OP. Like that guy can take bullets. He falls from a building, splats on the ground. He's fine.
Right,
building falls on him. He's fine. Right. So I'm like, wow, okay.
Yeah. It's like the only way they're gonna be able to kill this guy is if they like shove a bomb down his throat or something and explode him from the inside. Because you're sure as heck ain't doing it from the outside. Yeah. But it's funny though because he was getting eaten up by those little piranha fish things, man. Yeah, they were digging into him like it was nothing, man. So maybe bullets can't hurt him, but Saw like
right.
They must have some vibranium teeth or something.
I mean, they were alien-looking fish. So I don't know.
Right, but it was pretty funny. But so I mean. Yeah, so as far as weaknesses, those few things, but it wasn't enough to detract from the movie, right? It wasn't enough to make me be like, oh, that just ruined the movie. It was horrible. Because, I didn't think it was. I still really enjoyed watching this movie.
It's still sort of a mindless movie.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's another popcorn action flick,
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, they leave it wide open for the next one, right?
Now, I wonder if Captain Flag, if he's out or Colonel Flag, excuse me, is out.
Dude, I don't see how they can bring him back because I mean,
I don't either. But
the way
it didn't look like other characters weren't going to make it back, and clearly they are.
But the way he died, I mean, it did one of those scenes where it shows that that piece of ceramic or glass, whatever it was, actually penetrate his heart and stop his heart. So it's like I don't know how you come back from that.
Peacemaker has a bullet
through his throat,
and if that guy is so good about hitting like main arteries and stuff, why would he miss?
Right. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah,
but he did have to thread the needle through the bullet, and who knows where he threads the needle through the bullet and into his neck. So it's cool that all that's lined up. I don't know how he'd be aiming from his throat at that point, but
yeah, somehow it worked. Especially since John Cena,
shouldn't it hit him in the eye?
Right. And I don't. Did John Cena shoot from throat level? Did he shoot from chest level? It never really showed. So yeah, depending on.
Don't think about it too much.
Right.
But him and then the Weasel.
Yeah,
is back. So and clearly he looked like he was dead from drowning. Then all of a sudden
he just coughs up the water and he's good. He runs off.
I'm glad to see that, but I wouldn't be surprised if Colonel Flag is back. But I don't know how they could do it.
Yeah, I don't either.
Maybe it comes back as something else. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe like some kind of cyborg type thing or something. Because I liked his character, man. I liked Flag. I liked him a lot. I liked the actor that played him. And I think I think they should. I would like to see more Flag.
Yeah, and that's what's cool about this is some of the good guys do drop in this, and I like to see that.
Most of the good guys drop
that's
in
true.
this.
Like
right?
there isn't too many people.
I think you have 4 of them at the end that walk away, and that's it. Out of all the like 15 of them or so or whatever we started out with, like 4 of them walk away.
So it is nice to see like a good guy body count, and it starts off right off the bat with that kind of stuff, which is pretty cool. So
well, and when especially like I said, especially what I loved about it is they catfish you off the bat, and they just drop all these dudes, and you're like, what? It's like what's going on? And then you finally realize who the real primary characters are. You're like, okay, I see.
All right, so what are you giving this movie?
All right, I gotta tell you, man. I went into this movie not having high expectations because I wasn't thrilled about the first one. I'd have probably given the first one a 6, maybe a 7. And that'd have been generous. I think this one I liked it, man. I like this movie. I'm gonna give it an 8, man. I really, as far as an action movie goes, kind of a mindless action movie. There was just a lot of action, a lot of cool death scenes, a lot of banter and comedy back and forth. The villain was kind of weak, but it didn't detract away from the movie. And they still made light of it and made fun. Even during the scenes with the villain in it. So I'm giving it an 8. I thought it was good.
Yeah, I was initially going to give it a 7, but as we talked about it, I think it is better than that, and I'm going to give it an 8. So let me bounce some movies off you to see which one's better. Obviously, you like this better than the original Suicide Squad.
And we didn't even mention Birds of Prey, man, right? So I mean, what do you think about Birds of Prey?
I didn't finish it. I tried. Yeah. I probably gave that movie a solid hour of watch, and I said this movie is terrible. Yeah, dude. And I cut it off.
No, dude, I watched that movie I only watched it about a half an hour, and I cut it off. I was like, this is garbage. I can't even get through this terrible movie. Yeah, I mean, because like you were saying. DC, they seem to have a lot of plans for Margot Robbie and her Harley Quinn character, but then they gave her her own movie, and I thought it was garbage. I watched about a half hour of it, and I was like,
and I'm a Ewan McGregor fan, but he couldn't save it.
Oh yeah, no, not at all, man. And I never picked it back up. And I don't know who. Maybe it got better later. I don't know, but I didn't like what I saw of it, and that for me it was nothing. I was like, man, this is garbage.
So you like this better than the original Suicide Squad?
Yep.
We just saw Jungle Cruise. This or Jungle Cruise?
This. Yeah, okay. Man. Well, what do you think?
Yeah, I think. I mean, there are parts I like of Jungle Cruise, like The Rock and his little puns and stuff. Right. I thought were good, but overall, this is a better movie. I think.
Well, like we talked about it.
They're obviously a little bit different movies, but just on a pure enjoyment factor, I think this slightly edges.
I mean, if the Jungle Book. The Jungle Cruise hadn't ended up, hadn't taken the pirate route like it did later in the movie, it could have been a better movie, I thought. We talked about that when we did a review of that. But because of that, it wasn't as good as this movie.
All right, this or the Tomorrow War?
Ooh, I think I gave the Tomorrow War an 8 as well. I liked that one. I enjoyed that one. I think I might have liked this one a little more, though.
This or Army of the Dead? Zack Snyder is involved with this one.
Yeah,
so it has a little bit of the same flavor.
And you're definitely comparing apples to apples on these because, like you said, Zack Snyder had a little bit to do with it. But not only that, but they're both just the kind of mindless, bloodthirsty freaking movies, man, where just everybody's dying and stuff's happening. So I'd have to probably say about even kill on those. I think.
I think this is slightly better than Army of the Dead, just because the story is slightly better to me.
Yeah.
I think actually Army of the Dead has potential to be better than this, but because they fumbled with some of the plot details a little bit, that I was like, I don't know. But I was really enjoying that, and that seems to be mixed. Some people are like, this movie is completely stupid, or some people are like, are you kidding me? It's awesome.
Yeah, and that's the point, right? Like, if you go into this movie with low expectations and just thinking this is just going to be a mindless action movie where you're just going to see these fun characters having fun and stuff, then you're going to enjoy it, right? But if you're going in this movie thinking you're going to get some kind of deep storyline with some of these characters and and you're going to get some kind of just amazing...
This ain't like the Dark Knight story
right, exactly,
level or anything like that.
And they've never led you to believe it would be.
That's true.
And that's the thing. They never led you to believe it was going to be that way. So if you're going into it thinking that, well, then you're going into it with the wrong expectations anyway, and you're going into it with the wrong view. So yeah, you're not going to like it. But if you go into this movie just thinking it's just going to be a fun movie with a bunch of crazy, goofy characters that are just freaking having fun and killing people and getting killed and just being funny, then man, you're going to enjoy this movie.
This or Black Widow?
This. Yeah, definitely this. I mean, Black Widow was okay, but it wasn't on the level of this.
I agree. Like, the action, I think, is better in this than
absolutely.
Black Widow.
Yeah, by far.
This or Guardians of the Galaxy, either one.
Ooh.
See, this is where I prefer Guardians of the Galaxy over that. Better story.
Story.
Just
exactly.
as good comedy, if you ask me.
Oh, yeah. So. No, I would agree. I definitely like Guardians of the Galaxy story better. And the comedy was great. I mean, I think there was more action in this than Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
But I would have to agree. Guardians of the Galaxy would definitely edge out this one as far as which one I thought was better. I mean, I'd probably give the Guardians of the Galaxy a 9. So I mean,
yeah.
So I mean, I think it was definitely better. I really enjoyed
that franchise. And
oh yeah. Yeah,
I'm not a big Guardians of the Galaxy fan before that, so I was really impressed.
And not a lot of people were, right? Not a lot of people even knew who Guardians of the Galaxy were. They were kind of like a second-rate, group, within Marvel, and then James Gunn comes out and just blew it up with him, man. Everybody's like, holy cow, this was awesome, right?
Yeah, and again, that's why I was excited to see this, and I'm glad that he was able to put his stamp on this one and elevate it compared to the original one.
Yeah, absolutely, man. No, I agree.
That's all the movies I have to compare it.
All right, guys. Well, hey, we hope you enjoyed our show. If you did, hit like and subscribe, and please tell us what you thought about the movie. Let us know what you thought about the character dynamics, what you thought about the villain. I'd really like to know what other people thought about the villain, like I said, because I thought that was probably one of the flat parts of the movie that, that if there had been a better villain, it would have been better. But overall,
it had some
really
cool elements to it, but like in general, it's hard to fight like a building size.
Right. It's
monster,
hard to fight State Marshmallow. Right. Exactly. But yeah. But anyway, guys, we appreciate you watching, and we'll check you in the next review.
See you guys.
Yeah, I think the first one was just Suicide, and this one is The Suicide Squad.
Oh, clever. All right. The Suicide Squad movie. Billy, this movie.
Yeah, it was a movie.
All right. The Suicide Squad. This movie's. All right, The Suicide Squad.
That does makes it hard, right? It's easy.
Yeah,
you just say Suicide Squad. It's easier.
I know. The shouldn't even be in there.
Right.
All right, guys. The Suicide Squad. God dang it. Billy, this movie's directed by James Gunn. What do you think of him?
I think he's all right, man. I don't know shit about names.
No, he did the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Can't give me damn
Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, we're talking about the director here.
Yeah, I don't remember directors, man.
All right. Well, he was in. He did Guardians.
Guardians. Yeah, okay, now you should have said that. You should have said James Gunn directed Guardians. See what you think. Yeah. All right. Now I get you. All right, let's go.
Oh man, this guy wants a reboot.